Oh, welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. We're all still alive. And you listen to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. And it's November. It's going by fast. Man, it's speeding by. It'll be Christmas before long.
We're almost
Everybody
out of this
keep
one.
Yep, everybody keep my fiance Christina in your prayers because she had a friend pass away and her grandmother passed away, so she had to go to the hospital for some heart nerve stuff. So keep her in your prayers. It's a lot when you lose someone, you know. We did hospice on her grandmother, and her grandmother passed away, and I had never been that close to death. Well, I seen my dad when he died and stuff, but his body after from a heart attack. But I actually had to help someone transition and doing all that stuff when she was 91 years old. And let me tell you, I wouldn't do it again unless I had to. It's not fun. It's depressing. But we got Jay McNicholas with us tonight, and our guest is Wild Trees. Good to have y'all here for sure.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here for 2 hours. 2 hours, baby.
Yep. 5 minutes till 9, and we'll be cutting it out. So how long have you been doing radio circuit? For a good while, or did you just start out doing it?
I think I just started out. I think it's been a year this month, actually. Yeah.
Cool. I think you've been on my friends list, but I saw you at Stephanie's, or maybe I added you after that. Stephanie brings me a lot of guests, so Stephanie Quick.
Oh,
Shout
great.
out to Stephanie Quick and her mother.
Love Stephanie Quick. Let me say this. Stephanie Quick, amazing woman. Everybody should read her blog. It is Ghost Box is no wait, Mystery Box is a Ghost Box. Damn, she's gonna hate me because I don't remember her blog name. But
she'll get you.
Look up Stephanie Quick blog, and
I'll look it up. I've been there. I just have very bad memory.
Oh, me too, man.
About everything.
Me too.
What? I know the Cozy Cook is not her.
No. So it's a Ghost Dog is a mystery box. I'm pretty sure it's Ghost Dog is a mystery box. Yeah.
Here's some weird site called StephanieGoochsite.com.
That's hilarious.
Stephanie Gooch. But she's been on many times, and she's recommended lots of guests, and she actually praises us as a show that is respectful and loves all womankind, which I'm like, really? That's good. So let's better get another woman guest out here. It's like a sausage party. I have to do that a lot. Like too many sausages, got to find some women guests. But she's a great guest for sure. And lately, I said a prayer to get more Native American guests and been getting them. I have 3 coming on. Just got 1 and 2 more coming up. So that's good from Inner Tradition. So looking forward to that. One's on the Navajo, and another one is these Stephanie Redfeather. She did these empath cards or something. So it's just good to get natives on. I love that kind of stuff. The more the merrier for sure. And first off, my Geraldo question. What is Wild Trees? Is that your real name? Or what's the story with Wild Trees?
Okay, it is not my real name. Usually what I do, I didn't do this with you, but usually if I'm gonna be on someone's show, I usually email them my real name and a link to all my research I've published, so they know I'm legit. So I could do that for you later, or even right now if you wanted to.
You don't have to. I just was your parents hippies? I didn't know what was going on.
No, I'm the hippie because I named myself.
I was like, that was your real name. I didn't know.
The reason why I have it is because I do work in academia, these professional institutions, whatever, and they ridicule any aspect of the paranormal. So I have to protect my career, and so that's why I'm Wild Trees.
Basically. I understand. I have a co-host named Wham. She doesn't use her real name. It's Wham.
Oh yeah, I know Wham. Yeah, I know Wham.
Yeah. She's a co-host, and Jay's a co-host. Well, what got you into the world of UFOs and paranormal? What was the catalyst?
I will say there's 2 big events that happened. The first event was shortly after I learned how to read. I went to the library at school, and they had a little section of paranormal books. they had the Bermuda Triangle, they had Bigfoot, they had UFOs, and miscellaneous human combustion.
Ooh, yeah.
And I mean, those librarians, they did not have to do that. Thank you, thank Satan that they did that, because they didn't have to do it. And that's what got me into the paranormal. And those books, I was like, what's going on? None of this is not matching up with what I'm learning in my other classes. And it gave me an idea that there was more to the world than what I was being told. And I was, like I said, I had just learned how to read. Now, what got me into research as an adult into paranormal, what happened was, this was only about 4 years ago. I got ill for 2 weeks. I was watching it on Netflix. I saw Greer's documentary Unacknowledged. Stephen Greer, is that his name? I'm blanking
Dr.
out on his
Stephen
first
Greer,
name.
yeah.
Dr. Stephen Greer. Great documentary.
Did you just say thank Satan? Because I hear that right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
It's funny.
everybody thanks God all the time. Satan never gets his due. I mean,
Like, am I on a Twilight Zone episode? It's funny because I was talking to one of my old co-hosts, Beazle, and I was talking about everything that happened this week, and he was like, "Yeah, now I'm a member of the media representative of Temple of Satan." I was like, "What did you just say to me?" Like, I'm not offended or anything. It just sometimes catches you off guard.
yeah.
I've seen Hell Satan, the documentary, but that's just a joke, or is that your belief system?
No, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. But here's another joke about Satan. Okay. Here's another joke about Satan. Look, I like Satan. Why? Why do I like Satan? Let me explain. Satan is a fallen angel. He used to be an angel. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to turn my back on an angel. I don't care what he's done. You know, I want to reform him. And so I don't hate Satan. I love Satan because he's an angel. He used to be an angel. I mean, that's a joke, but I do kind of believe that.
He makes some bomb metal music. For sure. Well, I do believe there's something to the Christ consciousness. A lot of my experiences, just to give you a summary, is basically I was 17, lost a meatball to testicular cancer, had to go through chemo, and then I'm fine now, but went through all that crap. And then the Tom Green situation. And then my dad passed away a little bit later, and I just started seeing all kinds of crazy stuff. UFOs, beings of light, Native American ghosts. Yeah, I was partying a lot. Sometimes I was completely sober, different states of consciousness. But I started seeing all this stuff. Beings of light leaving my house with witnesses, a friend saying, "Jeffrey, you're attracting these here." And I'm like, what? And just a lot of weird stuff. And it led to this. So that's why we do it. We're experiencers and just trying to figure out what the hell happened. Still trying to figure it out, really. But so you came across the books when you were at the library. That you said there were 2 events.
Yeah, so that was the first event, and the second event was getting sick about 4 years ago in graduate school. I saw the movie Unacknowledged. So by that time, I had already published research. I was deep into the scientific method. And then I started looking at all the research data that had been done on UFOs specifically. And I realized that it's real. And there's a lot of data. And skeptics severely underestimate the amount of evidence. And then after that, I can't stop talking about UFOs after 4 years ago when I got sick and saw Unacknowledged, basically. Yeah.
Cool, definitely. And the subject is a strange subject, and it's been in the media more and more lately, to a point of just, there's nothing like getting on YouTube and typing in, I hate Fox News, but if you type in UFOs, Fox News, it's still fun to watch. Let me tell you, it's like it's great.
Fox News.
It's not just the regular news media. If you go back in time, it's in every media. It's in painting. It's probably in some sculptures. There's ancient paintings with UFOs in them. There's Jesus paintings with UFOs in them. Even sometimes the North Star is depicted as a disc rather than a star. So I mean, it goes back thousands and even beyond, hundreds of thousands of years. It's on cave paintings, for Christ's sake. So the evidence is overwhelming. No matter how you look at it, there's something to it.
Can you imagine the type of UFO encounters cave people used to have? Can you imagine how crazy those were?
It must have freaked them out. It would scare the living crap out of them. It would be the same as us encountering them. If we went, even if just not necessarily back in time, just we went to some remote part of the world and there's still cavemen around, troglodytes and what have you, whatever. it would scare the crap out of us. We'd run. We'd scare the crap out of them with our technology, the way we look, and they would run. Or we would get into a fight, and one of us would probably die. It would be the weaker humans, I would think. But yeah.
Ooga booga. Ooga booga.
That reminds me of this thought that I have about how extraterrestrials should not be seen as a bad word. And I'll explain why. Because we are extraterrestrials. You, me, people listening, we're all extraterrestrials. Why? Because most scientists believe there is life on another planet. It could be bacteria, it could be just a slug, but that means that we are extraterrestrial to them. So we are extraterrestrials. So it's not a bad word because we're extraterrestrials. But then again, we are bad. So maybe it is a bad word.
Well, it's a descriptive word, and until we step foot on another world, we're not extraterrestrials. But that if you just go by the mathematical law of averages, we know of one planet in this galaxy, our planet, has life on it. And if you average that with the 500 trillion stars in this galaxy alone, with its 500 or 600 trillion planets, the law of averages states that it is mathematically impossible that there is not another planet in this galaxy with life on it. And you expand it out to the universe, it's even larger. So life is extremely abundant in this galaxy. And I guarantee you, and you might have heard it here first on this show, and I said it before, there's probably life in outer space. We know that those little water dog things live in the vacuum of outer space, and I'll bet you there's macroscopic creatures. Best episode of Star Trek is Tin Man, where they have a spaceship. It's a living creature that's a spaceship that lives and travels in space as its natural environment. And I'll bet you we'll find something like that. Maybe not in our lifetime, but sometime down the road.
Let me tell you. Funny. Go ahead, Waltrees.
Okay, thank you. What's funny you mentioned the term is actually water bear. I know water bears very well because I studied them in Colorado. I did my master's thesis on them. But I can expand on the water bear specifically. So these are animals that are microscopic. However, I know a lot of details about them. However, I've been to Montana and I caught some red ones, and they're visible through the naked eye. So they're not all microscopic. Some of them you can't actually see with the naked eye, but a lot of them are microscopic. They live all over the world. There's probably hundreds around you and me, wherever we are outside our house, because they live in the water, they live in the soil, they live in trees, they live in the ocean, they live in lakes. And the reason why they're so cool is basically they're actually aquatic animals. So they're actually like fish. They can't move around or breathe or anything if they're not completely surrounded with water. They are true aquatic animals. But here's where it gets weird. When they get dry, like for instance, the ones that I study a lot, they live on moss, which grows on a tree or the ground or a building. Now, what happens in the moss is that when it rains, the moss fills up with water, and then the bears wake up from a hibernative state. And this is when they find a girlfriend or boyfriend. This is when they eat, go to the bathroom, lay their eggs. This is when they're alive. Now, this may only last a day or two. Then when it dries up, this is the interesting part. When it dries up, what they do is they make their own glass called a tun, T-U-N, and they make this cocoon over their little bodies. In this cocoon, they're basically dead, but they're not dead. We don't know how long they can survive because we haven't lived that long, but we know they can survive at least 40 years because that's how long we've tested it. Now, when they're in this tun, they're not having any metabolic action, like they're just flatline. But the amazing thing is, as soon as it gets wet again, the tun comes off and the cycle starts all over again. So some people are like, these are excellent candidates for extraterrestrial travel because they can survive the vacuum of space. Here's the other thing about it. People always say this about them. They say they're the toughest creatures on Earth. That is halfway true. At the same time, they are the strongest creature on Earth and they're the weakest creature on Earth because they have two stages of their life. When they're awake, surrounded in water and moving around, they're the most easily killable animal. You could easily kill them, no problem. But when they are in their hibernative state, in their glass tun, this is when they are the strongest animals in the world because they can survive extreme temperatures, extreme pressures, radiation, basically anything you throw at it, they will survive in this stage. So,
wow, and they're also called tardigrades, but yes. You're saying when they're in this tun, in this glass cocoon, there's no cellular decay at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's cool.
Sure.
Is there any regeneration? Do they regenerate in this state?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. There they're so complex. I do not study that specific aspect of them, so I don't know. The only things I know about that stage is that it seems to be infinite, perhaps at least 40 years, and they're not eating, they're not breathing, they're completely covered in glass. So yeah, those are good.
Weird.
Those are good questions to ask for sure.
You seem like an alien to me. Some kind of alien.
So the idea is there's this one word called it sounds kind of naughty, but it isn't, which is the best kind of word, and it's a scientific term called something genesis. I can't remember. Here's what the idea is, though.
Are you talking about panspermia?
Panspermia. There you go. Let me say that. Panspermia. Panspermia. Thank you.
So
very
naughty.
well read, man. Panspermia is this. Thank you again, Jay. It's the idea that life was seeded on this planet or other planets. Mm-hmm. So here's a scenario that might have happened. These tardigrades, well, here's the other thing. These tardigrades are ancient. They are one of the oldest creatures on the planet. The other thing about them is that they are very unique organisms. They are their own type of animal. They're not a mammal. They're not a plant. They're not a bacteria. They're not an insect. They're not a worm. They are tardigrades. They are.
And they're not one-celled either.
They're not one-celled. They're multicellular. They have 8 legs, 8 pairs of legs. The legs have little claws on the end of them. That's why, and they're kind of like fat little round things. Their face is flat. Their face is the scariest thing about them, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, their face is weird.
They have this flat face. Imagine a round circle, and then it's totally flat, and that's a face. And then in the middle, they have this little mouth that can it's got like a pump inside it, so it could siphon and they could stab, and it's basically not fun. If you're a rotifer, a microbe that is trying to eat, you want to stay away from that mouth because it is deadly. Now, some of them are carnivorous, some of them are vegetarian, but yeah, they're very interesting. Oh, so it's panspermia. I got lost track. Panspermia. Here's the thought. Here's an idea that people say. Perhaps these tardigrades lived on another planet, and what happened was that planet was hit by a meteor or something, and a chunk of that planet came off, and that chunk had tardigrades in a ton state. So then that chunk is flying through space, and the tardigrades are they don't even know anything's wrong. They're just relaxing, and who knows how much time passes, but then it lands on Earth, and it could have been that's where they came from. There's no strong evidence to support this other than the adaptations they have. But it's not really just about them. It's about other animals could potentially be or live similarly to these tardigrades.
Well, the theory is sound because they have a rock. They know the origin of this rock is from Mars, and microscopically in this rock are tubular bacteria. They're dead. They didn't survive the crossing, but the possibility of something being ejected from another planet to this planet is possible. It would probably be more likely if it was a local event, like Mars to Earth, Venus to Earth, Earth to Mars, etc. But something from like the nearest, I think, solar system to us within our galaxy is 4.2 light years away, which seems a pretty far distance. It would take a miracle. It's like what did Scotty say in Star Trek? It would be like trying to hit a bullet whilst riding a horse backwards, blindfolded. So trying to hit a bullet with a smaller bullet, riding your horse backwards, blindfolded. It's 1,000,000 to 1 shot, but the possibility is there. So.
Absolutely.
It's a trip, man.
Oh, and just one more name for them. We mentioned a bunch of names. Water dogs, which is actually a different animal. There's an animal named water dog, but it's water bears. Moss piglets is one of them.
Moss piglets. That's a cool band name, Moss Piglets.
Moss Piglet. Actually, if you want to go to my Facebook page, everybody, go to facebook.com/the.moss.piglet. And that is a tardigrade. And then they're called tardigrade. So it's tardigrade, moss piglet, and water bear.
I think tardigrades would be a great song for a band, or a great name for a band.
So Wild Trees, I know you're a biologist and everything. We're going through mass extinctions right now. Aren't we having extinction events right now with animals? I know we are with animals, but I mean, it seems like it's at a mass scale.
It saddens me to say this, but yes, we are going through a mass extinction. And here's the thing about mass extinctions: that we've had several before. I wrote a term paper about it, but I can't remember how many we've had. Let's just say we've had several mass extinctions. And what I mean by mass extinction is that almost all life on this planet has completely died out. And it rebounds. It rebounds. Like a lot of people say, let's save the planet, but that is kind of incorrect because the planet's going to be fine. I mean, if we get murdered by nature, if everything alive today, everybody we love, everything we know of that's alive dies, except for just a little bit of bacteria, give it 100 million years and you'll be fine. The Earth's going to be fine. It really should be called Save the Humans. We really need to, when we're trying to protect the environment, we're talking about saving humans, not saving the planet. The planet, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
A lot of people don't realize this, that 99.9% of the life forms that were on this planet are gone, permanently destroyed, never to come back. And then there are some that we have never discovered and probably never will because the remains are probably at the bottom of the ocean and have been washed away ever since. But we're, of the, top 0.1% of that which is still alive, and that there are still creatures that are going extinct weekly, monthly, yearly.
Well, here's another way of looking at this whole extinction species problem is this. As of today, based on my research, I've discovered a new species of animal and described its science. Based on my work, I think there are hundreds of thousands of undiscovered species on this planet right now. Mm-hmm. So they haven't been cataloged at all. So most of them, I'm sure, are probably invertebrates, meaning they don't have any bones, like crabs or worms or insects, and jellyfish, squid. But a lot of them are also probably very tiny, very small. But I think there are several large animals and large intelligent animals that we haven't discovered. Where do I think they live? Well, where do we not really visit that often? We're not really living in the ocean, on the ocean floor, which covers the majority of the planet. We're not really living underground. Oh yeah, we have a mine and we have a basement, but the majority of the underneath the crust of the Earth is not inhabited by humans. Something else could be living there. We just don't know. And then the sky. The sky is a very large, it's a lot of real estate. And biology hates letting anything go to waste. So in my estimation, there's probably large things that live in the sky that are alive, like living UFOs, which was proposed by Ivan Sanderson, a biologist and a paranormal researcher who came up with the term ultra-terrestrial, actually. And shout out to Zelia Edgar, who has a channel on YouTube, because she taught me all these tidbits about Ivan Sanderson. But
she's been on before, thanks to Stephanie, for sure. She was a good guest.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
And it's funny you mentioned underground, because I have a relatively unusual theory, and I don't think it's only my theory. I think Jeff Meldrum prescribes to this theory. The reason why we don't find Bigfoot, even when we have people out there actively hunting the creature, and not sure hunting to try to kill it, but hunting to, like Matt Moneymaker and his crew, there are tunnels, caverns really underneath the entire country. There's a set that goes from almost all the way to Florida, all the way up to almost Maine. There's some that go a little bit into the interior, and then there's a large cavern system that goes from almost from Washington all the way down to the bottom of Baja California. And it is my theory that the Bigfoots, not only are they intelligent, but they actively seek to avoid human contact at all costs. Occasionally they get a little lost, a little curious, and they get caught either by our eyes or cameras. But for the most part, the way they travel from, let's say, up in Ohio down to Florida for the seasonal change of where their food goes, is they're traveling underground.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. It's not hard to believe. I'm really scared of cave systems. Cave systems are fascinating. They're amazing. I honestly, what I would probably do, this is a big thing to do because I'm so scared, but I would have to develop robots to go in there and do the research for me because I am so scared of getting trapped and dying in a cave. Very scared.
I wouldn't be so much afraid of the cave itself, but the creatures in it, spiders and cave crickets and those pseudo spiders that they had in the Harry Potter movies. Those things, I would scream like a little sissy girl and run out. I couldn't make it.
I am a biologist. I love every animal that has lived or is living or will live in the future. So I would love those little critters. But your point is well taken. They are dangerous.
Well, if you prescribe to the Indiana Jones theory of archaeology and or biology, everyone in the movie in the movies has their own Bane creature. It's spiders for Indy. It's monkeys for his son. It's rats for his dad. It's snakes for him and for Sala. So everybody has a creature that scares the crap out of them.
I love the dinosaur stories, like did one survive and evolve, or what about another planet where maybe there was dinosaurs and they didn't die out? Like did they turn into reptilian people and all that stuff? Like I love that.
Let me tell you, if you want me to expand on that idea, because this is some more research I've done. Okay, one little thing you said, which is very interesting, because I've thought about this and I've read the books and the articles about it. Now, you mentioned this idea, which has been out there. What if there's other planets and you have life exactly like or very similar to dinosaurs? Is that possible? Now, I will say yes, based on my evidence. I think that could be possible. First, I'll tell you what I think, and then I'll back it up with why I think that. Now, I think my hypothesize that a life in general evolves and it follows the same pattern.
Set patterns,
and
at least.
The same course, okay? So that you eventually get the same outcome. As long as you have the similar parameters, you have the right ingredients to life. Now, I'm always thinking about the naysayers. Let me say, I know there's life out there that's different than human life, that's not carbon-based. It could be robotic, it could be ethereal, who knows? But I'm saying, I do think that we're not unique with this type of biological animals. I don't think we're the only planet that has it. And I think that when this life exists somewhere else, when it starts brewing up, I do think that you get insects, you get crabs, you get mammals, and you get dinosaurs. Okay, now here's why I think that. Here's a research project. So, I don't know if you guys know this. I think you probably know this, Jeffrey, but are you familiar with these lizards called anoles? A-N-O-L-E.
Yes.
Okay, they're very common here in Texas. They're kind of like chameleons, although here in Texas, these lizards are everywhere. They can only change to two colors, brown and green. So they are chameleons. But anyway, I don't know if you guys knew this, but these insects are incredibly diverse in the Caribbean islands. There's so many of them, all different kinds. There's big fat ones that live on the ground. There's skinny long ones that climb on trees. And there's some medium-sized ones that live in the middle of the trees. So here's the experiment that was done with them. I'm trying to lead up to why I think life follows certain patterns, because this is what I believe. This is my interpretation of this project. So I just told you that there's basically three types of these lizards. There's a type that is fat and lives in the bottom. He's a ground dweller. There's a medium-sized one that's in the medium, and there's a really tall, skinny, long one that lives in the top of the trees. So these researchers went to some virgin islands where there were no lizards at all, and he took a population of lizards that were, I think they were just generalized. This part I don't remember, but they took some lizards and they put them on the island, and they just let them do their own thing. Basically, just let nature take its course, let evolution take its course, because evolution does happen faster with these animals because their lifespan is faster than humans, and is shorter than humans, and they breed faster than humans. So that's why we get quicker evolution in bacteria, because a bacteria can have lots of kids in one day. Several generations. A human, it usually takes at least 20 years, maybe 18 to 20 years for one generation to change. But anyway, when they left these lizards on this island, they saw that they once again evolved to form a similar pattern that was happening on the mainland. So to me, that's showing evidence that life evolves following the same patterns. Therefore, I think other planets that have biological carbon-based life probably experience a dinosaur phase as well.
I don't know if it's an actual theory, if it's just been in like science fiction shows, but there is a theory about parallel Earth evolution, that all biological creatures, including single-celled items, evolve along a specific set of guidelines. But you're right. Also, I have to agree with you. It wasn't Stephen Greer that said it. It was, oh God, now I can't remember his name. Our bad memories. He's recently passed. He was crippled in a wheelchair. Stephen Hawking.
Okay.
Stephen Hawking said that it's not a good idea for us to go out in search of alien life form because, number one, we may find that alien life is so alien to us we don't recognize it as alien, as life at all, period, and or that it might be of a mechanical or AI type nature that would instantly attack us and extinct the species. So,
absolutely,
everyone's got a theory about that. Are there Transformers out there? I don't know about that, but I'll bet you there are some extremely violent mechanical life forms that do not like biology.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of it specifically that way, but you've convinced me.
Well, if Stephen Hawking said it, it's probably it's a good probability. The scientists I hate are the ones that are the naysayers. And my best example of that is, as a biologist, I don't know if you're specified in like earth biology or water biology or all around the world, but 1957 is the same year, by the way, the internet began. Several marine biologists and other scientists got together and created the first bathysphere called the Trieste. Jacques Cousteau, who's a major marine biologist, very popular fellow, was involved with this study. And millions of dollars to get two guys to go down 8 miles down into the bottom of, I believe, the Marianas Trench. And there were naysayers and yaysayers. There was the naysayers on one side with the extreme scientists that said, no, there's no way we're going to find any life at the bottom of the ocean because it's A, the pressure is too high. B, there's no light. C, it's too cold. D, F, G, all these reasons that there wouldn't be life down there. Oh, one of the reasons was that the water's like ammonia down that far.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, fascinating. On the other side, you have the gaysayers like Jacques Cousteau and his peer group. They're like, we'll find something. We're going to find viruses or a big mat of bacteriological debris, or maybe single-celled life form, something. We'll find something, but it's probably going to be microscopic. We have to bring samples up and study. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but when they got the guys down, there's a 4-hour trip down, 4-hour trip up, and they had 10 hours worth of oxygen. So they had like an hour down there, and then they had to come back up.
Yeah.
Are you aware of what happened when they got down there? I mean, within moments when they got down there, what happened?
I don't. I'm going to guess they saw some life, but I don't know what happened.
They scared up a creature that's very much like a sole or a flounder, a flat, 4-eyed fish with all the eyes on one side, on the bottom is nothing.
Yeah.
They scared the crap out of this thing. It came up from underneath the silt, scared up so much silt that it was clogging their engines, they couldn't see where they were going. And they were like, well, we found something, let's go up. So they went back up. And since then, and this is 1957, 58, since then, we have cataloged thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of new creatures every year going down there since.
Absolutely. Wow. That's a wonderful story. Very well told. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's very awesome.
But the thing, the point is that those scientists who say no, they're 100% wrong. I don't care what they mean. Okay, so they if they said no, you can't get Spider-Man's powers and climb up walls with your bare hands and feet. Okay. But if they say no, it's impossible. There's alien life out in the universe. No, there's no way there's life at the bottom of the ocean. They're wrong, and they should be having they should have their certificates and degrees taken away from them and given to someone who's more open-minded.
If you want me to, I could tell you from my perspective why that attitude exists in science.
Before you go, I do want to hear your reason, but I'm going to guess that your reason for them saying no, or that kind of other naysaying this, is because they're trying to protect their reputations and their theories, which are yet unproven.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me say that again. Let me let that sink in. It's a deep thought. So can you repeat it to me? Actually, you think the reason is
the reason I think they're saying no is because they're trying to protect their reputations and any theories they may have come up with that are as yet unproven.
Interesting. That is that. Well, okay, that is what I was going to say. That is actually an example of one of the reasons I was going to give. Now that I've processed it. So there's two reasons why, and I'll give you both of them. First, I'll give you the reason that I think is a broader window to what you just said. And so this reason is that there is a culture in science. Scientists have like these unspoken rules that what you do and you don't say. You have a ladder. There's big egos. There's quote unquote rock stars in biology. Mm-hmm. And it's all about how many papers you publish and where you publish them. What a published paper represents is basically a new discovery you've made. It's a formal paper written, but what it honestly represents, it's a new discovery to humankind. And it could be a huge discovery and it could be a small discovery. Kind of like what you're saying is a lot of these scientists are already comfortable. They're already making a lot of money. And so they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to bring in these other ideas that contradict what they've already said. So that is part of it for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to be proven wrong. It's scary.
It's scary. The other reason why is this, I think. It comes down to money. So here's why. Now, science is great. when we have a new scientific discovery, we all find out about it. For instance, there was a vaccine made recently for a virus that is very famous, and everybody in the world knows that this virus was discovered. So how do we find out? Well, it's because it was published. A research project was done to discover this vaccine by scientists, and then they published the results, and then everybody finds out about it. Okay, this is what we need to happen for paranormal things. We need a scientist to do the same thing, do the research, publish it, and we all accept it. That's not happening. Okay, now this is why I think, because if you get a discovery like that in America, there's 3 ways you're going to get that discovery. Number 1 is you're going to get it through a government agency that has a laboratory. The USDA, the CIA, NASA, they all have research laboratories. They conduct research, so they can come up with this discovery. Or it could be a private company. So this is non-governmental. This is like Microsoft, SpaceX, Tesla. These companies have research laboratories. Once again, they conduct research and they publish the research. The third avenue is academic institutions. These are research organizations, universities, etc. Now, here's the thing. The government is not going to tell you amazing research, and a private industry is not going to tell you they're not going to tell you amazing research, because the research belongs to whoever paid for it. So if the government spent millions and millions of dollars finding these amazing paranormal research, UFO research, they're not going to tell us. It's their information. They covet it. Information is power. If a private company discovers something amazing, they want to exploit it themselves. They're not going to make it well known. But here's the outlier. Academic institutions, they only exist. The only reason they exist is to make them public. They have to publish the research. Everybody has to find out about them. The term is publish or perish. So the paranormal research is probably going to have to come out of academia. Why isn't it coming out of academia? It's because research projects can take hundreds of millions of dollars to finish. They could take several years to finish. They could take dozens of people working together. It could take thousands of hours of work. So this costs money. Where do you get the money? Academic research institutions, they get the money from research grants. They get it from, a lot of times, not always, but they get it from the United States. There is
or private sponsors.
Or private sponsors. Yeah, private sponsors are possible.
Robert Bigelow.
Yeah, I'll mention Robert Bigelow because he's an outlier. So just to wrap up this thing, why academic researchers have to get the money from grants? But here's the tricky part. The people that give the money, they stipulate what it is used for. They don't just give you money and say do whatever you want. They tell you this money has to be used to research viruses. This money has to be used to research salmon or whatever. So as long as these institutions are not offering money, then nobody's going to do the research. And if nobody does the research, it's going to remain stigmatized. But that's just the government. A lot of times the government funds the research through our tax money. But this is where it gets exciting. There are private individuals that could donate money, like what just happened with Robert Bigelow. Robert Bigelow, out of his personal fortune and wealth, donated money or put up money for research into the afterlife. And he's already awarded it to the top prize to Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove. So this is really the avenue where we could get some progress, I believe. We have to get private funding. We just have to get funding for paranormal research, but I don't think it's going to come from the government. So I think it has to come from wealthy individuals.
I've interviewed Jeffrey Mishlove. Tell me a little bit more about that. What was that again?
Okay, Jeffrey Mishlove. I think he's still the only person who's received a PhD in parapsychology. He received it in California. So he has a PhD from an academic institution in parapsychology. Parapsychology is like, telekinesis, all this esoteric topics. But he's very well known. He's got a great channel called New Thinking Aloud. And he interviews people as well. Now, here's what happened. Robert Bigelow offered several different prizes, like first place, second place, third place. And he said, you have to write an essay to describe why you think there is an afterlife. Or maybe if there isn't an afterlife. It was a research paper about the afterlife. They got all these submissions, and Jeffrey Mishlove, Dr. Mishlove, submitted a paper. I'm not sure if it's public yet, but pretty soon, or maybe already, we'll be able to read it. But that paper he wrote describing why there is evidence for the afterlife, won first place, and Robert Bigelow gave him a lot of money. It might. I don't think it's quite $1 million. It may be 100,000 or 500,000. It's not anything to laugh at.
Have you heard anything that I don't know if this is true or not? A rumor that someone close to Bigelow passed away, and that's why he got into that. I heard that from somewhere. Have you ever heard anything like that?
We must run in similar circles. I heard that exact rumor. I could tell you who it came from, and I could expand on it a little bit. That rumor started a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago. It was said by another cool guy who studies the Uinta Basin. His name is Ryan Skinner. He's written lots of books on the Uinta Basin. He seems like
I've interviewed him.
Okay, so Ryan Skinner, lovely man. He's the one who put in a comment. He said that Dr. John Alexander was visiting. I think he was visiting that Uinta Basin area where Skinwalker Ranch is located for a paranormal conference. So Ryan Skinner said that Dr. John Alexander, who has worked in Skinwalker Ranch, told him that Robert Bigelow thinks his wife died because of the paranormal activity that was brought to his home from Skinwalker Ranch. Now, he has also detailed that part is private, apparently. He only told John Alexander, I respect John Alexander, bless him. But apparently John Alexander told Ryan Skinner, and then Ryan Skinner told the world. Bless everybody involved. No hate toward anybody.
A long time ago, his son died. That was why. But this was a long time ago, like years. I don't know what's true or not anymore. With that,
well, from what I've heard about this as well. His son died, and tragically. And from what I understand, this is what made him really want. This is why he funded studies in the afterlife. This is why he gave that money. His great interest in the afterlife, and maybe a lot of paranormal stuff, came because of the tragic death of his lovely son. And this is what inspired him to go down this, definitely for this grant that was just given, this award money. So, yeah.
One time I got so close to Bigelow through Chase Glowetsky, who was on the star team of MUFON and reporting to Bigelow at crashed UFO sites.
Wow.
And I don't talk to her anymore. She had some big KGRA war with all that stuff with me and them. I won't get into it, but that's what she told me. And something about MUFON's God computer didn't have anything on it or anything weird stuff. But she said she had to report to him. And I know at one point he took over that place or something and craziness happened. And I heard that he was buying stuff out of the lockers, and Thomas Reed, this compass went missing. Bigelow bought it. Like, it's just kind of shady, a lot of shady, weird stuff that happened. Bigelow, I don't hate him or anything, but he kind of gets on my nerves, and he's a space hoarder. I think he knows a lot and doesn't tell us anything. Like maybe a dribble. But go ahead.
Let me talk more about Robert Bigelow. Well, first of all, let me just say this. You're a great guy, Robert Bigelow. I do respect you. Let me say that again because it was some. It was.
Yeah, sorry, I could close that window. It's getting hot here, and there's a street there, and some people have these really loud cars.
I think it was the Men in Black driving one of their classic black
Shut
cars.
up about Robert Bigelow.
Don't hit the red button.
So, Dr. Robert Bigelow, I do respect him a lot. I think he's probably done the most for paranormal research in our current times. He's definitely, I think, funded with his personal wealth the most paranormal research. Then again, he did it privately. Remember what I told you earlier? Whoever pays for it gets to keep it. From what I understand, he's not released all his files. He doesn't have to. It would be nice of him to release it, but he did pay for a lot of research with his own money. So he owns it. He doesn't have to tell us, and he hasn't told us. He's only given us hints. He has said plainly that the UFOs are here. They're right under our nose. This is his quote. He said, UFOs are here. They're right under our nose. And he says, I don't care what you think. It doesn't make a difference what you think about me. It is what it is. This is what he said happened with his wife. He said his wife was alone at home in the bedroom, and she was sitting on the bed. And then across from the bed, suddenly a human materialized out of nothing. And I believe they said it was just this human from the waist up, but he was just there in the bed looking at her. And then she said that the look on this person's face was bewilderment, astonishment. I mean, he was looking the way she was looking. So this human, was just as surprised as she was. That's one incident which sounds intense. Now, he did say that she had a great character, so that didn't really freak her out. She was a strong woman. The other thing he said, this is Robert Bigelow's words. He did an interview with George Knapp on Mystery Wire on YouTube. Check out Mystery Wire with George Knapp to find this interview and others. He also said that one day his wife, Robert Bigelow's wife, there was a pillow on the bed, and she lifted the pillow, and it was just a beam of light just emanating from it, which is just a weird little story. Who knows what was going on there? But it seems like it was bedroom centered, which is interesting. We hear about shadow people in our bedrooms all the time, looking at us,
I had the
touching
knocking
us.
thing, the knocking on the pillow in my room. Like, we thought like a Bigfoot was here trying to get with my woman. I was like, you need to keep that booty up outside. Don't be that Bigfoot out there. Like, we thought it was maybe that, like, weird. We don't know. We still don't know what it was, but that's come up like crazy Nephilim giants. But we had Carter Bouchard on, and he's from BFRO, and he claims that a lot of these things that happened to me or how happen at Bigfoot cases in people's houses and stuff follows them back. But my thing with Bigelow is a lot of people are going through these situations, myself included, and have PTSD from it and self-medicate from it. That is so crazy, some of the things I've seen, and maybe he could help people. That's why I don't want him hoarding it. You know, I know it's probably, I don't know, I just wish he was more transparent. Have you looked into the Skinwalker? I was at the Pentagon much yet? I haven't read the book, but I have it on the way. But have you been keeping up with all that?
I have been keeping up with it, but lightly. The way I've been keeping up with it is as soon as it was released, I was interested in it. So what I did is I listened to a few shows, and the shows talked about the book. So I have not personally read it, but I'm just not that big of a reader. I'm so busy nowadays. But yeah.
What's the meat and potatoes of it? Some stuff followed home military personnel from Skinwalker Ranch. What did you get from it?
Yeah, well, see, here's a curious thing, because what they were saying was in the book. I mean, it's already been released. I've known about this stuff from the same people already mentioned this. So let me explain what was said. Here's the big takeaway, which is fascinating. It has a lot of crazy implications as a researcher. The takeaway is this. The paranormal activity in the Uinta Basin, which is a large area in Utah. It's a large area. I mean, there's several cities within the basin. So it's not just a ranch. There's a military bases there as well. There's a McDonald's there. There's a hotel. You know, it's a whole neighborhoods there. This whole area is where the paranormal activity is. It's been reported for hundreds of years by Native Americans. Now, a lot of times you'll hear Uinta Basin, you'll hear Skinwalker Ranch. Here's the thing about Skinwalker Ranch. It's a ranch in this area that had a lot of paranormal stuff happen. But the thing is, that same stuff happens all over the basin. So yeah, it's a cool spot, but the whole city, the whole basin is cool. Anyway, here's what's interesting about this area. It is a hot spot for paranormal activity. Every single type of paranormal activity. A Bigfoot, UFOs, Men in Black, dogmen, paranormal, everything. It seems to exist in this area. It's been
described as the Walt Disney World of paranormal activity.
Which is a great name for it. Now, here's what the rumor is, and this is what's exciting about it. Apparently, if you visit this area and you follow a certain set of steps, which I'm hesitant to say because I don't want to, maybe I'll tell you off air, but if you do something when you go to this area, you will be followed home by something. It's called the hitchhiker effect. So basically, if you go to this area, you follow these steps. When you go home, it doesn't matter where you go home. You're starting to have you're gonna have weird UFO activity. You're gonna have shadow people in your room. Basically, to me as a scientist, why this is significant is because in order to do a science experiment, you need to have some kind of control over your subject. This is why we haven't been able to really understand paranormal activity, because there is no control. Paranormal activity, a lot of it seems to be intelligent, so you can't predict it. You can't control it in a beaker. You can't put it in a cage. You have no control over it. It's not like a sea cucumber. Sea cucumbers are invertebrates that live in the ocean. If I want to do an experiment on them, I know where they live. I could go there today. I could go there tomorrow. I have consistency. I could grow them in the laboratory. You can't do that with a UFO. Until now, apparently, we do have a little bit of control, because we could go to this area. We could get this thing to follow us into a laboratory, and we can do research with it. That's my view of it as a scientist. Not nobody's talking about that view of it. what the book is trying to say is that this is dangerous and scary, which makes me kind of think: are they just saying this to keep people away from this area? Is this a scare tactic? It could be true, but are they trying to scare people away? Because the way they frame it is that this is dangerous. It could cause you bodily harm.
It could be a safety tactic too. I mean, if there's legitimate danger to humans, I mean, the first rule of thumb of telling people, of wanting people not to go to a certain area, is you don't tell them not to go there, because then what are they going to do? They want to go there.
Okay, interesting.
So, I mean, the only place that I know of that they tell you don't go to, and people still go to it, but they only go so far, is because if you go beyond this sign, the sign actually says once you pass the sign, the use of deadly force is authorized, so you can be killed.
Right.
They don't have that at Skinwalker Ranch, so if they tell you not to go there, people are going to flock there. It's just reverse psychology. You tell people, hey, come on down, yeah, and I'll guarantee you, if they do that, it'll kill that business. I mean, it won't kill the paranormal stuff, but it'll stop people from going there as often.
Well, what I've seen from Skinwalker Ranch on the show and everything, people's skulls getting enlarged, radiation burns, people going mad. I mean, it sounds like it is dangerous to me. I mean, what's up with the radiation thing? I haven't seen the second season yet, so I don't know if they ever figured that out.
So you're talking about the show called The Secret Skinwalker Ranch. Once again, a great show. I believe I watched it on an app, so I don't remember what channel it is. Is it History Channel?
Yeah, History Channel. I saw the first season, but not the second yet.
Yeah, a huge recommendation for everybody. Watch The Secret Skinwalker Ranch, a TV show on the History Channel. Season 3, I think, is filming now. Now, there is someone, a researcher named Erica Luke. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if you had her on the show, but
Familiar with her, yes.
I think her name is Erica Luke or Erica Luke.
Erica Lukes.
Okay, she has a great show on YouTube. Apparently, her husband, I think, did some security in this area. And I don't want to misquote her, so I won't go into too much detail, but I get the impression that she thinks that a lot of the paranormal activity at Skinwalker Ranch is actually caused by the military. They're testing something. There is a military base in the basin, as I mentioned. Another weird aspect.
There's also a rumor, and I don't know if this is true or it's just, backwater talk. Allegedly, it's just, I believe, just east of the Trinity test site where they tested the first nuclear weapons, and in future years they tested other nuclear devices. So it's within the radiation pollution zone, I guess, of Area 51.
Wow.
And also allegedly either something was lost there and or intentionally buried there that's radioactive, which may be the reason for the military base and presence is to keep people away from this. Either it's buried, heavy water, or buried depleted uranium, whatever the hell they might have. We know for a fact that because there was a Supreme Court case against Area 51 for having poisoned people with noxious chemicals and radiation. So that's part of the rumor too, is that they're hiding something that was buried that shouldn't have been buried there.
That's fascinating. That makes a lot of sense. Once again, very well said. That makes me think about. It seems that we're talking. I was trying to talk about, as a scientist, I want control over the paranormal to study it, and I do think I can get control. Another way that seems to be out there to get control, now it's not very feasible, it's actually illegal and it's dangerous, but another way to control paranormal activity is basically to possess radioactive material, because these things seem to be attracted to nuclear submarines, places where military bases where nuclear weapons are stored, nuclear warships. Nuclear activity seems to attract UFOs.
Yeah, but you have to have a lot of it, and like you said, it would be illegal and/or extremely dangerous to even have it. Then you said there's very few people that are out there that actually are getting grants and/or doing the full scientific research. The only one that I know of that's doing it, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, I mentioned him earlier, is Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who's an anthropologist, and he's doing some really fantastic research into yes. Bigfoot. And I'm kind of fully into his camp. His suspicion is that it's either some off branch of humanity, Australopithecus, Gigantopithecus, or some variant of that extinct line of humanoid creature. I've seen the Bigfoot creature up close. I mean,
can you tell that story? I know you. Can you tell that story? I'm sure everybody's heard it, but I've never heard it. I'd love to hear it.
I will in a minute. But so Jeff Meldrum he's a qualified scientist. He's a doctor of anthropology. He's a professor of anthropology, and he, like you, he's an animal behavioralist. He's an expert in great ape society and the types of, typical behaviors they have. And everything he says, Bigfoot does. Knocks on trees, throws rocks, grunts, marks trees, or whether they mark it with scat or scratches or, intentional disfigurations that, like we mark things. When you want someone to know it's yours, you put your name on it. Bigfoot does the same thing. So I agree with him 100%. Now, as far as my encounter with Bigfoot, I was 10, and this is up in Ohio, in Boardman, Ohio, which is near Youngstown. The house that I was at was my cousin's house, and it's near a fairly industrial part of Ohio. Most of the state was involved with steel production and steel distribution. My grandfather's company was a trucking company that specifically distributed steel from the steel mines up to manufacturing facilities in Ohio. So behind this house is woods. And then behind those woods is an industrial street. There's McDonald's, there's factories, there's warehouses, there's now a mall. There was a Toys R Us there. And this is 40 some years ago. So you wouldn't expect to see a Bigfoot in this area, but yet here we are. We're in my cousin's house on the second floor in the guest bedroom. And there's, let's see, me, Mike, so there's like 5 of us, 6 of us, all my cousins there, and I'm by myself. My brother and sister at another cousin's house on the other side of town. And all of our parents had gone out for Thanksgiving dinner. It was Thanksgiving weekend. So it was cold, but not snowy. And we're just jumping around on the beds, having fun. And I was sitting on the one bed farthest from the window, about 10, 11 feet. And I smell this god-awful, like skunk, poo. Ugh. It would make you vomit, the smell. And I'll never forget the smell. I smell it again. I'll know right away who it is. So I say to my oldest cousin, I say, hey, Mike, I think one of your, baby sisters or brothers, because they had a set of twins that were like under 2 years old, still wearing diapers. Like, hey, I bet you one of them has a dirty diaper. You can check them. Let's get him down to the babysitter so that she can change them, and let's get back to playing. Yeah. And as soon as I said that, I looked in the window, which was open, and there was a screen there. And behind the screen was an old face, a Bigfoot face. It had big, long mustache, beard. The skin around the eyes and nose and around the lips was bare. I could see it was a dark brown skin, but there wasn't fully furry. And everywhere else was hair, and just brown and like grayish, yellowish hair. And it had a look of joy, like it was enjoying watching us play. No anger, no animosity. And mind you, remember now, we're on the second floor, second level of this house. So we're 10, 11, 12 feet up in the air.
Wow.
And as soon as I saw the creature, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I'm sure that a yellow streak ran from the top of my neck all the way to the bottom of my spine. And I froze. I was like, WTF, And then the creature sees me, seeing him, and his face went from happiness to absolute anger. Like he was pissed that I seen him. Whoa. And he looked right in my face and growled at me. And then everybody ran. No one else saw him but me in the window. So we all run down the stairs to where the babysitter was in the living room. As soon as we get down there, we see this 10, 12-foot creature. In the backyard, they had a little log cabin that they had as a playhouse. I had the same cabin at my house in Maryland. There's room for 4 or 5 kids. And it was probably about 5 or 6 feet tall at the top of it. And this thing jumps off of that into a sandbox next to the playhouse. And then within 2 or 3 strides, left the backyard and was gone behind the houses. I mean, like that. I mean, this thing must have weighed 800 pounds and disappeared within seconds. And the babysitter, as soon as we got down there, she saw the creature jump off. My cousin saw the creature jump off, and everyone's like, then not long after that, my aunt and uncle come home. We tell them like, oh, ha, 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 whatever. They thought we were trying to play a joke on them. The very next morning, my oldest cousin, the babies stayed at the house because they were only like 2 years old. And plus they had diapers. They're not coming with us. So we went into the backyard to see what was going on. On the side of the house, in the window of the room we were in, there's 2 huge muddy handprints on either side of the window where it had propped itself up. Wow. On the top of the roof to the little playhouse, several slats were bent in where it had been standing and broke them. In the sandbox directly to the left or to the right of the house was 2 huge, must have been 2.5 foot long footprints where he jumped into the sand. And
Wow.
we didn't know about plaster of Paris. We're 10.
Right.
So
Right.
if I'd have known Bigfoot, research type things, I would have poured some plaster of Paris in there right away. But there's 2 huge footprints, and then we can see footprints in the wet grass going behind the houses. We followed these footprints at least 3 houses down before it turned into the woods. And then in the woods, there was a creek, and the footprints stopped at the creek. And we went to both sides of the creek. We went up and down both sides. We could not find the footprints after that. So my oldest cousin and I suspect that once it got to the water, it stayed in the water and went left or right for however many feet, yards, miles until it went back on the ground. But we lost it. But we were able to actually, the footprints were so distinct in this wet, semi-soggy fall grass that we could follow him for almost an acre, maybe more.
It's amazing. That's an amazing story.
And Jay only thinks they're physical. I think they can do quantum stuff, but Jay does not.
I don't disagree with that, Jeffrey. I think that the ones who do dematerialize are there's in the book of UFOs. Both the Russians and the Americans have these books, and I need to get one so I can read up on this creature. There's a creature that looks like Chewbacca, looks like Bigfoot. He doesn't wear a bandolier, but they are space traveling aliens that use technology. And we know for a fact, due to Ben Rich and John Lear, both said something very similar. I think it was Ben Rich that said, if you've seen it in a Star Wars or Star Trek movie, we can already do it. And John Lear said, if you can imagine it, we can already do it. Basically implying that Star Wars and Star Trek technologies are available. So if that is true, and I believe it is, just imagine a Bigfoot-like creature that's like Chewbacca that can use a transporter like Star Trek and disappear when someone sees him. What would our technologically unadvanced mind think? Oh, it's Bigfoot. He just melded into another universe. That's my theory on that one.
I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess, because this is what I believe about Bigfoot. I believe there are multiple explanations for the Bigfoot phenomenon, and they're all valid. So I do believe there is one that is just a physical animal from this planet, a very strange animal, like the one you described, Jay. And I do believe, some of them are different causes, like aliens. Why wouldn't a UFO inhabitant or a UFO occupant not look like a Bigfoot? I mean, we have all kinds of humanoid-looking ones. So I think there's multiple explanations. Now, I have thought of a way how I would do it. How would I prove Bigfoot is real? First of all, I'm specifically talking about the type of Bigfoot you saw, Jay. I'm not talking about the weird ones. I'm talking about, I do think there are some Bigfoot that are flesh and blood, and I do have a way of proving him true. Now, here's the thing. This plan is different, okay? Because I'm really thinking about the Bigfoot's welfare. This whole plan, the whole reason why I want to prove Bigfoot real and everything behind my intentions and all my actions are to benefit Bigfoot. So this is what the plan is. Now, you mentioned it before, but they seem to like to mark things. They like to leave signals or communicate. I've heard that people are gifting them. So I think there is a way that we could exchange ideas, exchange communication with them, not necessarily talking directly to them, but we could leave a symbol, they could leave a symbol. So this plan would probably take several years at least. This is what I would do. I would find a location that has Bigfoot, that I know there's gifting going on. And for several years, I would form a relationship with these Bigfoot. I would gift them. I would try to escalate the conversation. I would try to get it more complex, because eventually what I want to do is I want to clearly explain to them this thought. I would like you to gift me a corpse. I want a corpse as a gift from you of a Bigfoot that already died. I will respect this corpse. I will honor it. But this corpse, I will use it to write a scientific paper. I will put the corpse in a museum, and then I will prove that Bigfoot is real. And then I will also help pass legislation to protect you, to not harass you. Once we know for sure you're real, we don't want to exploit you. I don't want to exploit them. I do want to know they're real, understand it better. But if I could get that thought to them, I think that's the way to do it, because I don't want to kill one. I don't want to hunt one. They obviously don't want to be seen. They have to do it themselves. They have to gift us a corpse, in my estimation. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I don't think it's going to happen because, from what I understand, that first of all, it's an intelligent creature. They're not idiots. They're not like they're not like a horse or cow that just like follows the bull of the herd. They're intelligent creatures, and they actively seek to avoid contact with us. Now, there has been quite a lot of Native American stories where they've had lots of interaction, and that some of the actual Bigfoot that they've interacted with had a rudimentary speech, could speak in their native tongues, like a baby, me hungry, me food, me shelter. Not real, not real philosophical conversations are going on here, but basic needs. So I don't think they're going to understand the fact that we want a dead body, or why, or that we're protecting with legislation. That's not going to. They would not understand that. I don't believe. I'm afraid, and I don't like this idea, but I do think that's the only way that it's going to happen is some idiot hunter is going to be out there, and he's going to accidentally shoot one and kill it and bring it to science. I think that's the only way that's going to happen. And I don't want any hunters to go out there and actually source and try to kill and hunt a Bigfoot. It's not a good idea. But what I do know about, and I think Jeff Meldrum has actually expressed this, he is of the suspicion that they actively seek to bury their dead as soon as they are detected. So when they find someone, one of their, they travel in small family tribes. They're maybe 30, 40 individuals. As soon as one is dead, they bury it on the spot, either right there, or they take it to a sacred spot or a native hometown, if you will, where they bury their dead. And if they do that, we're never going to find it, because it's the same thing as like trying to find the mythological graveyard of the elephants where all the ivory has been, where they died and their bones are exposed. We're never going to find that. The other thing about Bigfoot that I think that we really need to do is we need to capture it. We not necessarily capture it physically and bring it to a laboratory, but capture it on camera. We have technologies now. Everybody on the planet has a camera in their phone. Everybody. There are trail cameras. Trail cameras aren't that expensive. You can get, like 6 or 7 of them for a couple $100. But we need a huge chunk of money and a lot of researchers and a lot of energy to keep these batteries charged in these trail cameras. We need to pick one spot where there's a lot of Bigfoot activity, and we need to set these cameras up and leave those cameras up for forever. And when we're out there, we don't shower. We have to smell like the nature around us, or they're not going to go near the cameras. As soon as they detect human smell, they're going to go the other direction. So it would take a lot of money, a lot of people, and a lot of time, and you'd have to be in a very remote area where it would be difficult to get food to, in, and out of. And if there's a problem, one of you falls down a cliff and breaks your leg, you might not get medical help for a long time. So it's a very difficult task to try to capture these Bigfoot. Satellites aren't doing it. Cell phone cameras aren't doing it. Matt Moneymaker isn't doing it. Although he catches a lot of activity on camera, lots of rock throwing, tree thumping, and vocalizations. But that's not the creature on camera. That's what we need to get.
That expedition Bigfoot's been getting some pretty interesting stuff.
Those
different. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay? Or does my voice sound
a little bit of
little bit distorted?
A little bit.
Okay, if I were to click on the StreamYard link again, can you guys put me in the show again? Because I think
sure.
I'll fix it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'll be right back. I'll do that.
Oh, okay. Well, I think there's a wide variety of Bigfoot. I just hope there's not missing 411 pedo Bigfoots. That's what worries me a little bit. Because, not to say they're all like that, but surely some are innocent that like kids or whatever. But what if, some of these missing kids, maybe they are like people. Maybe they are some that are weird like that. I just hope not. But it was just a thought I had. You see a Bigfoot watching.
But you're not wrong. It seems like they're attracted to innocent behavior. Usually they're seen near where kids are playing. Like when the example where I first saw it, we were playing in the bedroom, and this creature must have been walking by and heard our if you will, gaiety and laughter and having fun. And he came by to take a look and see what was happening. So, and I think that's kind of like the bait, like how do you catch a mouse? What do mice eat? They like, small insects. They like peanut butter. They like cheese. All the traditional, things that everybody say that they like. You put
He
your
got
bait.
mad that someone saw him. Is what it's me.
Yeah,
I mean, he got mad that someone saw him. Like he was doing
the look
something
on his
wrong.
face was anger. I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. It's. I mean, it scared the hell out of me.
I don't think all Bigfoot
I will never forget that.
Like that, but it just kind of worries you when you think about missing 411. Some of the kids that go missing and stuff. Like, it's kind of scary.
Well, I mean, it's possible. I mean, there's plenty of stories of Bigfoot capturing and kidnapping humans.
And there's stories of kids surviving and saying hands fed them berries. So there's obviously good ones. So I'm not saying they're all. Mm-hmm. There's a mixture like people, different personalities and stuff like that. So I know some of them. One kids said they were fed berries by Bigfoot or something fed them berries while they were out there. But yeah, sometimes I do worry that some of them may be like missing 411 pedo Bigfoots. But of course, like people, there's a wide variety of personalities, good, bad, whatever. But then you hear the cannibal stories and all that stuff. So you have to wonder, You got you there, Wild Trees? Can you hear us?
Don't seem to be able to hear you. So
now you sound like you're driving a TIE fighter on Star Wars.
Echoing.
It's like a weird echo. This is your father. I'm a reptilian overlord. That's like distortion. That's strange. It's the Men in Black. It's Jay's Star Wars Stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah, the Empire is in on the transmission.
Hello, I am Wild Trees. Hello. That's like camera? Is that like for watching kids? I mean, not pedo stuff. It's like a baby. I thought it had a camera in it. It had a camera in it.
It's a helmet for my Stormtrooper.
I meant like one of those babysitter cams or whatever. Like the teddy bear, Oh, okay.
Stick your head inside of this.
Let's see it. Come on. Let's see it.
Yeah, I gotta take my glasses off.
Let's do it.
If it were a Bigfoot helmet, I would put it on. But we're not talking about Stormtroopers. We're talking about
these cool Star Wars masks for Halloween. They had like that Bosk, the bounty hunter lizard one.
Yeah.
And they look like masks never fit on my head for some reason, so I've kind of given up on them. But
I got a huge head, and most of the side of my head comes out of them, so I don't wear them.
Yeah, me too. I don't do them. But it's interesting about Bigelow. So many mysteries. He just seems like a selfish turd burglar. Release it, buddy.
Something about that. I think that I don't think they have all the information. I don't think he has all the information, and some of the information. I'm convinced if we find the whole story, if we were able to unlock all the Pentagon stories, all the CIA files, all the FBI files on everything UFO from the beginning of this country till today, we would find out some pretty heinous things that our government is doing, has been doing, has done in the past, is doing again now, et cetera, and so on. And things, we'll find out things about what Hitler did and what Germany in 1944 did, and maybe even Mussolini in Italy, and just all the bad stuff that's happened on this planet, going even as far back as the Crusades in the first centuries forward. And then just I don't think all the information in there is good. I think there's some really, really bad information in there that would make the common citizen extremely angry.
Definitely. And who knows if there were deals struck and all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of theories about that.
Well, allegedly, there was a treaty between the aliens and Hitler, a treaty between the aliens and Mussolini and Roosevelt and Eisenhower and et cetera, yeah.
Well, Eisenhower's who I meant, but I've interviewed his relative Laura Eisenhower. That was a weirdo trip, let me tell you. She went to Mars, supposedly.
She did. Wow. I'd like to interview her because I'd really like to talk about that with her it's her great grandfather, actually, Eisenhower was.
She is very kooky.
Kooky. You know, but a lot of people in the paranormal research are.
It's just something.
Kooks, yeah.
Something else though that's off. I don't know exactly how to put it, but I don't know how I feel about it. My problem is she hangs out with Weber and now Andrew Basago, and they're just kind of like, I don't know, something just seems off. If you question any of them, they call you a Satanist that works for the cabal. When I said I didn't believe Obama went to Mars or something, I said something about it, and that's what they said. Well, you're a Satanist that works for the cabal. That's like their response if you disagree with them. So, and then they all stopped talking to me because of that, her included and them. So, and actually Andrew Basago, time traveler, got mad and canceled the show because I had made a post on my wall joking about dildos, and he said something about, I can't come on your show after seeing that on your wall, Jeffrey, because of the children. It's like some stupid, I don't even remember, just something funny on Facebook, you know. But
I actually remember that happened, yeah.
There's some fruity stuff there. I don't understand. Something's off. That's all I'm going to say. But if your response for everything when someone disagrees with you is you're a Satanist that works for the cabal, then something's off with that. Just you disagree with me, so you work for the Illuminati. I mean,
there's got to be some openness there. I mean, we can't all agree about everything all the time, you know. And you're right. There are some absolute kooks in the paranormal world. There's some really just strange people out there.
I've actually had the Starborn sisters say that I get a payment weekly from some dark forces that pay me weekly. I don't make it. The only money I make doing this show is $100 every 6 months for a banner at the website. That's it. That's really it. $100 every 6 months for one banner at the website. So there's just a lot of kooks that they'll make up stuff about you in a minute.
If you do start getting paid by dark forces out there, send me a quarter, send Wayne a quarter. You know, we can all use it.
They owe me a back check. They owe me a back check. I don't know. I see Wild Trees. Let me see what's going on now.
Hey, there he is.
Are you there, Wild Trees?
I'm here in audio only. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. And
yes.
We don't see you, but it's okay.
Yeah, I had to switch. I'm back.
You're like a weird little glowing white icon now that talks to us.
What did I miss?
I've expressed concerns about missing 411 pedo Bigfoots, but other than that, nothing. And I also said I don't think all Bigfoots would do that, but it's still creepy to worry about it a little. Yeah. But the missing 411 stuff is crazy. There's been positive stories too of supposedly hands feeding kids berries and stuff like that. That's positive. So obviously, if they were sickos, they wouldn't feed kids berries. So I just think, like people, there's a wild variety of personalities there. So that's all we were talking about. And I forget what else, all kinds of stuff. But I don't.
Yeah, we also talked about how Bigfoot seems to be attracted to childhood type banter and play, and like even in the woods where there's like groups of Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts frolicking in the woods and having fun, they seem to be somehow attracted to that. So it's kind of like their bait, we use what's used to catch a mouse. You use the certain type of bait that mice eats, put it in the trap, you get the mouse. The same thing with the Bigfoot. If you want to catch the Bigfoot, you gotta know what it likes, and then it seems that some of them like to observe children having fun.
That's so funny because that's something we could use to our advantage. But once again, it's prohibitive because it is unethical to use children in an experiment to lure Bigfoot, in my estimation.
Yes.
Well, you may not necessarily need to use the children, but maybe get some recordings of kids at playgrounds having fun and use that, and maybe you can attract Bigfoot out in the wild. But one of the tricks that's actually used to any effect at all is now, I've actually seen the creature and I've heard the creature. I mean, it screamed in my face, really. So I know what it sounds like. And the human vocal cords just cannot reproduce that. It's like just trying to impersonate a dog. We can get the sound, but we can't get the frequency. And you bark at a dog and they look at you like, what? But we can't even come close to replicating the Bigfoot howl. But Matt Moneymaker has 3 or 4 really good recordings of Bigfoot howls on tapes, and they're not terribly loud, but he puts them through amplifiers and throws them out at night in his investigations. And not always, but 5 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, he puts those sounds out. He gets a sound in reply. And when he does get a sound in reply, I know right away whether it's either a human yelling back or an actual Bigfoot. If it's a human, nothing happens. If it's Bigfoot, again, the hair on the back of my neck goes standing endwise, and I know because I have the fight or flight response, and I don't get that when a human does it.
Absolutely, that's really interesting. Because it reminds me of what you mentioned earlier about using technology to get evidence of one. Because it is interesting. We could probably use high definition and a high refresh screen, large, high definition, high refresh rate. This means more frames per second. It means more fluidity in the motion, more realistic, to maybe display children playing. And that perhaps could entice a Bigfoot without having to use actual children.
There's got to be a way. Every creature has something that it needs or enjoys or likes, whether it's food or shelter or clothing or a particular sound. If we could understand what their howls mean, or what their tree knocking means, we may be able to replicate. The tree knocking is probably threat behavior. It's like where a bear scratches a tree. If you go beyond that tree, the bear's going to eat you. The knocking in trees is probably threat territory. Don't come anymore this way, or I'm going to hurt you. The howling, however, is either one or the other. It's either threat markers, or it's hey, are you of my tribe? Are you a girl? Are you a boy? Or maybe it's a mating ritual. We don't know. We don't know enough about their behavior to know what the howls are. But the knocking on trees is probably threat territory type. Don't come this way behavior.
Interesting. Another thing I wanted to mention, if we could go back to my idea I had for how I would prove Bigfoot is real. I got put off right at that point, but I do appreciate all your feedback on this idea. So I'd like to push back and talk about it a little more. At first, I'll say this is very constructive, and this is what science is all about. When you apply for a master's degree, you have to present your research and you have to defend your research. When you submit a research paper for publication, you have reviewers that give you feedback, and some of it is not that nice, some of it is constructive. But it ultimately, this is a good process because it makes the idea stronger and better. So, specifically addressing, you said that perhaps too complex. It's too complex to convince a Bigfoot to give us a body. So my pushback is that I think at the very minimum, it is possible to communicate through signals and gifting to a Bigfoot that you want the ultimate gift, which would be just a skull. That's all we need, a skull. And perhaps in exchange, we could give them a bazillion whatever it likes, honey, berries, cakes. And I don't think that's too complex of an idea to get across to them. Pancakes, yeah. I'm serious. Like, what if we give them, we're like, look, we'll give you a year's supply, 100 pounds of pancakes. I don't know, whatever they like. But just some research to back this up is, we do communicate with animals already. Simple things, but we do communicate with them. And a lot of people are thinking, myself included, that whales are the next animals that we will be able to communicate through. So I do think it won't be easy, but nothing ever is, nothing worth doing. And I think it's going to involve actually teaching the Bigfoot and to communicate in this way, like really working with them. But I think it's doable, and I do think it'll take several years. But in my estimation, even if it takes 5 years, you're still proving that Bigfoot is real. That's an amazing discovery. And this plan doesn't involve any violence or any stress. It's supposed to be fun.
Well, I don't think I think that's a little bit better of an idea. The problem again is, contacting them up close. And I think that because they actively seek to avoid us, at all costs. Like it's life or death for them to avoid human contact. That's going to take a lot. It may take more than a few years. It may take several decades, maybe even.
Okay, well, let me clarify that, because you're right. Let me clarify that, because perhaps I didn't explain an aspect to. Okay, because you're right. Everything you said is correct. So let me explain my plan. So when I'm communicating with them through the signals, I'm not looking at them. In fact, for this plan to work, I never actually have to physically see one or be near one. What I would do is I would find an area where they like to visit, and I would leave gifts, and then I would go away, and they would never see me. Then they would come at their leisure, take the gift, and perhaps leave something behind. So I could communicate with them without ever being close to them or without ever physically seeing them, because I've heard the stories out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think people have actually done that, and they've had mixed results. And that is a plausible thing. I think the quickest and easiest way would be you'd have to be very lucky and stumble across one that has just fallen dead right there. And the problem with that, though, is on Matt Moneymaker's show, Finding Bigfoot, they explained this pretty well. And what had happened is they came across a deer that had been hit by a car on the road, and they're not sure exactly the time frame when it was hit and killed, but it was pretty fresh. I mean, within 24 hours, it hadn't started to blow it up yet. So what they did was they took this into like the backyard of a house, like towards the woods in a rather remote area, I think in New England somewhere. And they staked the animal's carcass down. They staked the legs down, the head, so that it couldn't be dragged away by larger prey animals. And they set a time-lapse camera on it. And I'm going to ask you, how long do you think it took for this 400 or 500, 800-pound deer carcass to deteriorate?
Okay, not very long at all.
Well, give me your guess. So how long you think? Hours, days, weeks, months?
I'm going to say less than a week.
7 days. Within 7 days, all that was left was a few scattered bones. The leather was gone. The rack was gone. The tail was gone. The legs, inner organs, outer organs, everything was gone by 7 days. So now this is ideal, like summer or fall conditions. It wasn't too cold. It wasn't too hot. Change those parameters. Too hot happens faster. Too cold happens longer. It takes a longer time. So we're not going to be lucky enough to stumble across a dead anything. How often do you go out in the woods and you come back with bone of any kind of animal, even if you go looking for them?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that
easy. That's very true. I mean, there are dozens of animals that start eating a corpse as soon as it dies. Big animals, small animals, microscopic bacteria. It's a free for all. It's a feeding frenzy, and that's why it's such a quick turnaround before you have nothing left.
Yeah, and the main organism, the main mechanism of the deterioration of a dead body is the bacteria that's in the intestines. As soon as you die, those bacteria begin to take over. And it doesn't matter whether you're human, dog, cat, deer, Bigfoot, Chewbacca, whatever. As soon as you die, those bacteria start to build up gases. The carcass bloats up, and then at some point it bursts. The leather or the skin bursts open, exposing the interior organs to carrion animals, crows, birds, coyotes, wolves. Anything that eats carrion is going to come to that smell. Turkey vultures, for example, can smell those things from 5-6 miles away.
Right. Yeah, because I've said it before, the exact same thing. I said the ideal scenario, but I also said it's unlikely. The ideal scenario would be someone just finds a corpse. We don't want to kill one. I don't think we should shoot one. I don't think we should hurt one. But it's unlikely we'll find a corpse. But it could happen. It could happen.
It's a possibility, but not a very strong one. And even if you just got the hand bones, all 5 fingers and the palm, that would have enough DNA in it that we could do some research. Then the problem with the research that's going on so far, it's like you said earlier in the show, there isn't any scientific methods being used. Matt Moneymaker is doing pretty good stuff. He's not collecting a lot of great info or data, but it's an interesting show, or at least it was an interesting show. I don't know if they're still doing it. But there was one instance where they came across what they thought was a couple of things. One was they thought they had some Bigfoot scat or poo and they thought they had some Bigfoot hair or fur. And when they collected it, I don't remember how they collected the scat. I think they used a plastic spoon, like from a coffee stir spoon, and they put it in a plastic baggie that probably had banana chips in it that they were eating on the trail. And then I'm being serious. I'm not trying to be funny. I think they actually used a bag that had trail mix in it to put the poo in. And then the same thing for the hair. They had I don't know if there's anything in this plastic bag or not, but they just had a plastic bag and they grabbed the fur with their bare hands, no gloves, no latex, put it in the bag, and the scat came back as bear or wolf or something. I forget which, but it was a common animal. And the hair came back inconclusive because they touched it with their own DNA and screwed the pooch, and it ruined the batch. So scientific, if you're gonna collect that kind of information, that kind of data, you gotta get like a trained forensic evidence collector, especially if you're collecting body fluids.
We're on the same page because I'm on a show called Black Lotus Live. It's on a channel called Black Lotus Productions on YouTube, a live show every Sunday. But we've talked to Bigfoot researchers. I've talked to Bigfoot researchers. They're great people. They're so enthusiastic, but they are clearly lacking a concise proposal, timeline, and plan for what they hope to accomplish. And a big part of this proposal will be using the scientific method. But here's the thing. I mean, I've trained what's called citizen scientists. The citizen scientist is someone who hasn't had a formal education or training in science. However, they are still doing science because they were taught by perhaps a scientist or self-taught. So these researchers, they're smart enough, they're clever, enthusiastic enough. I could train them, or someone similar to me could train them and help them develop a plan in how to in protocols and procedures for handling samples and what to do. It's not hard. You just need to take the time to learn it.
Yeah, if certain parameters, certain scientific methods are followed by everyone in a particular group, whether you're hunting Bigfoot or Mokele and Mbembe, any of the creatures, yeah, that would be awesome. The problem is that there's only so many creatures that I think are actual legit. Like some of the Dogman stories and the Lizardman stories. I don't think all those are legit, but I know Bigfoot's legit because I've seen it. I'm pretty sure that Mokele and Mbembe, which is in the African continent, is I don't remember which creature. It's either a Stegosaurus or a Brachiosaurus. It's one of those. It's a large dinosaur. The one we can't do scientific method on, at least as far as collecting scat and skin samples or hair samples, is the plesiosaur known as Loch Ness. Now, because he's in the ocean, he's in Loch Ness. My theory on that creature is that same thing as what happened with the coelacanth. Coelacanth it's a transitional creature. It's a fish that has, I think, 6 different fins, and it's one that's almost transitioned toward the point where it's about to start heading towards land and walking and living on the planet rather than in the water. They thought it was extinct, and then in the 1930s they caught one off the coast of Fiji, I think. What happened with that one is when the atmosphere changed after the Chicxulub event, when the meteor hit the Earth, they had to change their habitats. Almost all the creatures that survived had to change their habitats. If they were originally living in tropical, rainforest, they had to move to other places and adapt or die. Same with the creatures in the ocean. Most of their food on the surface had been boiled off. So they probably had a few good, free, easy meals of the animals that were floating around dead. But at some point, that food went away, and they had to find other food. So the coelacanth went down further and further until it found an ecosystem it could survive in. I think the same thing happened with the plesiosaur. If they weren't trapped within a large lake, and I don't think he's actually trapped in Loch Ness. I think he's got a way in and out of the ocean. But several hundreds or several dozens or several thousands of those types of creatures had to survive in order for these stories of Loch Ness to continue going. But how are we going to get scientific method on it? How are we going to capture this creature? How are we going to get fur samples, skin samples, poo samples? How are you going to know that it's from that creature once you do get the poo sample and throw it through? I don't think we have DNA profiles on plesiosaurs. So scientific method isn't always going to work with all of the cryptos we have out there.
Yeah, you're right, because there are interesting methods out there to get DNA. But DNA is very tricky. It's not a magic bullet, especially if it's unknown. Because if it's totally new and unknown, you have nothing similar to compare it to. It's not a magic bullet, unfortunately, getting DNA. Now, that being said, for the lake monsters, I think there's promising technology which is called environmental DNA. So it's possible basically to get a sample of water now with our technology and be able to get a lot of DNA and sequence it out of that water sample. So you could basically do an inventory. Now, technology has already been used, I know, in because of the last pandemic we had, or the one we're going through right now. This technology is used because what cities are doing is they're collecting wastewater. This is basically poo water, toilet water from a community, and they're testing it for a virus. And that's how they know how many outbreaks are out. So it is possible to isolate DNA now from just a water sample. And perhaps in the future, it could be used to take samples from air. Now, Bigfoot is interesting. You told me something very interesting, which is very true. With your personal story, you mentioned Bigfoot traveling through the creek. Now, I have a lot of experience traveling through creeks. I am a field biologist, so I've been in the field in Texas, Arkansas, Alaska, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado. And in Texas, it's really creaky, swampy. And when I'm in the deep woods, it's called the big thicket because it's big and it's very thick. Sometimes when you're in those woods, every inch of progress you make is a small victory. It's so thick. So what I do is I travel through the creeks. It's an amazing way to travel. And the creek will get me like really far up the state. And the creek connects a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting you said that, because now I'm thinking this big thicket area is an hour and a half away, and there are Bigfoot sightings there. Perhaps if I travel the creek like I normally do and pay attention to the area in front of me instead of the water below me, I might see something. And the other thing is that if Bigfoot do travel through creeks, it's possible that they release some of their DNA into that water. So it's possible that creek water can be tested for Bigfoot DNA.
Yeah, but you'd have to be there within minutes because it's traveling. A still pond or lake that doesn't have a lot of outlets to it, you have a better chance. But with a creek, it's moving constantly. You'd have to be there, like right directly downstream as soon as he crossed, or you're not going to catch anything. I think you have to be very lucky on that one. And the other thing with where I'm from in Maryland, I'm in Pennsylvania now, but when I grew up in Maryland. We have a snake down there. There's two of them, but they're cousins. Water moccasin, cottonmouth. Now, they're not as aggressive as the copperheads, which we have down here, which will actively attack you no matter how big you are. Water moccasins, if you're in their territory, that's the creek. Their cousin, the land version, is the cottonmouth. If you're swimming in the creek, they will swim towards you and try to bite you. So you got to be very careful walking and or swimming in creeks down here. On the land, if you get within the water moccasin's perceived territory, they will also actively at least do threat behavior to get you to go away, if not actively attack you. However, the good thing about the moccasin and the cottonmouth is that their bite isn't so bad, even if they pump their entire gland of venom into you. Worst you'll get is, sick and vomit and be in the hospital for a day or two. Copperhead, on the other hand, if it bites you and it puts its whole... If you get a young one, young snakes are more dangerous than older snakes because they really can't control their venom glands, and they'll pump the whole vial into you. Could kill a human my size, and I'm 5'9", 160 pounds. So you got to be careful out there.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, I once again, we have those snakes in Texas, and I've run into them several times when I'm going through creeks. It is one of the dangers I'm afraid of, but I've never been bitten. But when I travel the creeks, I see them. Sometimes the creeks are there's logs over them, and they blend perfectly in with the logs. So I do see them. But to your point, maybe I've gotten lucky because in graduate school and undergraduate school, we had a herpologist, scientist who only studies reptiles. He loved snakes specifically, and he was working in that area. And he caught one of these water moccasins and he put it in a bag, which we normally do. But then the bag is safe. If you got a snake, sometimes you just put it in a bag. But then what he did is I think the bag was too close to his leg. So through the bag, he was bitten by the water moccasin. Now, this is a snake expert. And he did spend time in the hospital. He was hospitalized and he got very skinny from what I heard, but he did not die. But yeah.
It's a pretty bad bite, but I'll bet you've never heard a story of a copperhead being eyewitness to a UFO.
I haven't, but I'd love to.
So my first UFO experience, we were walking in the woods behind our house, and behind my neighborhood was a set of power lines, and then the other half of the neighborhood, the older portion of my neighborhood, was on the other side of those power lines. We were in the woods under the power lines, so it's mostly clear, but there's a lot of thick underbrush. And it was me, my brother, and our two neighbors were walking this trail down there, and I forget what we were doing. We were walking somewhere to go do something stupid, probably. But I had a big walking stick that I kept in front of me because I wasn't an idiot. I had been bitten, and you probably can't see the scar, but I have a scar from a garter snake when I was a kid in Florida. A baby garter snake bit me on the webbing of my middle two fingers there, and its egg tooth left a V-shaped scar on my hand. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. So my mom got me a book on snakes. I read up on snakes. I've never been afraid of them. Terrified of being bitten by one, but not to the point where I'm like, spiders I'm scared to death of. Snakes, I'm like, they'll startle me, but I'll be like, okay, everyone back up. I know how to get around them, and I don't know how to handle them. I don't really want to handle a snake, but I knew snake behavior. So I was in the front with this big stick, and from the brush, and we're walking this way, from the brush on my left, a adult size and a big, probably 6 foot long copperhead comes out of the woods, coils up in front of me about 3 feet away, and raises up and starts hissing at me. So I put the stick in front of me, so if he's going to strike, he's going to go for the stick first. And I'm scared, so I tell my brother, I'm like, everybody stop. I didn't realize this at the time, but they weren't paying any attention to me at all at this point, and you'll find out why. I'm watching the snake, and the snake is looking at me, it's about to attack. I know it is. And then it does this number and looks up over my left shoulder, and then darts across the trail to the right. So it came in from the left, looks at me, sees something over my shoulder, and then takes off to the right into the brush, and I never see it again. So I turned around to my brother, who was directly behind me. I was about to say, hey, did you guys... And I had to stop because they weren't paying attention. They were looking up in the sky. So I look up in the sky, and there's this huge brass disc. And I say brass because it was gold colored. And I can't remember if it was slowly spinning or not spinning, but it was only just above the power lines in the trees. So 150, maybe 200 feet up in the air, and like almost right on top of us. Maybe 50 yards away, 100 yards away. Very, very close. Brass colored with like a weird symbol, like an H almost on the bottom of it. And I'm like, well, that's different. And this is my first UFO experience. And then it took off straight, following the power lines. It didn't go up, it didn't go left, it didn't go right. It followed the power lines in less than a split second. When I got a good 4 or 5, maybe 10 seconds looking at it before it disappeared. And I'm like, that UFO just saved our lives because it scared this snake away. And then as soon as it darted off, we all just looked at each other, and we just bolted. No screaming or yelling. Everyone bolted back to our homes, and no one ever spoke of it again.
Geez, man, you got the best stories. Paranormal stories. That's amazing.
I was scared.
Hey guys,
I was scared. I thought I was going to get bitten by this snake.
We got about 2 minutes left, so. Wild Trees, it's been great having you on. We appreciate it so much. What are some things you'd like to plug?
All right, here's what you guys could do listening. Please, if you could go to YouTube, in the search engine, type in Wild Trees and then channel. And my channel, my avatar is the stop sign. Please subscribe to my channel. I have paranormal content. Also on YouTube, if you type in Black Lotus Productions, there's a live show I do every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central. Lots of guests, lots of different paranormal topics. And on Facebook, once again, I have a page called Terrible Lizards. Terrible Lizards is what dinosaur means when you translate it. And I post a bunch of memes, science articles, paranormal articles. To get to that Facebook page, you go to facebook.com/the.moss.piglet. And there's also a link there to a video game store I have. So one of my big hobbies is video games. I buy, collect, and sell them to support the hobby. So I always try to have the lowest price online for any video game, any console, retro, modern. So that is at that Facebook page, Terrible Wizards, at facebook.com/the.moss.piglet. And that's where you can find me.
One of my first video games that I love is Archon. Remember that one with the chessboard and the light and the dark?
I got you all beat.
I love that one. I love
Pong.
Archon.
My first video game was Pong. That's how old I am. Pong.
Tell me, I would love to hear. We have a few minutes. What are your memories of playing Pong? What was it like? Was it exciting?
It was terrible. You got two little blips on either side of the screen that go up and down. It's like playing tennis on a screen. But like a year later, we got the upgrade where you could have 4 players instead of 2. It was terrible. And I don't know if it made it to the move here to the house, but when I came back from Georgia after college to my parents' house, all of my consoles were still there. I had the Pong game, and I don't remember if it was the 2-player version or the 4-player version. I had my Intellivision, my ColecoVision, and I think there was the one in between that was like a Sega Vision or Sega game. And then I've got an Xbox 360 and the Nintendo SNES and regular NES.
All right, guys. Well, we'll have to get you back on Wild Trees. It's definitely fascinating. I know there's so many other things we could talk about, like video games, for instance. But thanks so much, and we'll definitely get you on again sometime. I got to clear the line because I think Joe has a show at 9. But everybody have a good weekend, and thanks. And thanks, Jay. Thanks, JoJo. And thanks, Wild Trees. And we'll definitely have you on again sometime. It was a great show. Thanks so much.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody have a good weekend. Black Summer. You need some zombie apocalypse. Black Summer. It's good. All right, take care, everybody. End broadcast. I don't know where JoJo is.